What's up? What's up? What's up? Sports Counterpoints podcast. I am GB. Today is June 20th, 2023. Got Brian. You got Coop. What's up, guys?
What's going on?
Going on?
What's up? I'm live on location from Springfield, Missouri. Shout out to the Great Game of Business seminar we're out here a part of this week. So that's what it is. So yeah, this
is there like an ode to Simpsons out there?
Man, so I looked that up before I came. And the Simpsons creators are actually from Portland, I believe, Portland, Oregon. So Springfield, Oregon, but also Springfield, Missouri. So they took pieces of different Springfields into one other city, I believe, if Wikipedia is correct. So yeah, a little trivia. I did look that up. Good question, because I was hoping that I'm a big Simpsons fan. So yes, sir. So we're talking about, speaking of people going to new cities, we're talking about Zion. We're talking about CP3. We're talking Brad Beal. I'll talk about the U.S. Open and, anything else that pops up. So starting with, man, this is wild, man. That boy Zion Williamson, Stephen A. got on his head like, man, you over here injured and we see you got
it ain't got nothing to do with pumping and sweating. You know what I'm saying? Ain't got nothing to do with that.
If you don't know the story, Mariah Mills, who is an adult film star, has popped up with a gang of currently allegations, because I can't prove any of it, that Zion Williamson, who I believe just got married, if I'm not mistaken, or just had a baby or something to that.
Yeah, just had a child.
Life event. She's out the woodworks like, yeah, he was just with me. What Moke and stuff say? He's mine. You may have had him once, but I got him one more time.
Yeah. Yep.
She on his head well, that was a bad choice of words. Sending some tweets that aren't so savory for the boy, especially with that knee injuries. He got knee injuries, but his boot's knocking. So Zion Williamson, man, just the story itself has me weak. And if you guys don't know about it, look at Mariah Mills on Twitter. She's been going in. Look up carefully on Twitter. I'm gonna say that.
I think she got blocked
by not me. No. Hey, I was reading.
I think Twitter shut her account down.
Oh, good for her. Elon Musk said he'd had enough, huh?
Oh man.
I guess he's a Zion fan. Someone has to be. It ain't me.
Right.
Hey, what? So I mean that story's kind of wild, man. He thought she'll got on that, but also just what happens, because it sounds like anyways probably his time in New Orleans is probably done before it really even started. So
well, Brian, let me go because I'm gonna be real quick. I think you're more well read in this than I am, because I just sent you guys a little caption or whatever. But in my opinion,
it was real quick, Coop. That's not what
in my opinion, I think she wanted to be with him and he said no. And so now she's trying to get some money or just put them all out there on blast or whatever, see what he's doing. And I didn't know he was even married or got married. So that's news to me. But that's just what I think. I think she's probably bitter and she doesn't want to move on and just kind of want to smear his life or just ruin him or whatever. I don't know. But Zion, I mean, like we all know, he ain't really been taking basketball seriously, but why should he? He's paid, he got a lot of money, he has access to people, and he just took advantage. Yeah, he got access and he took advantage of his access. But other than that, I don't know any details behind it. So I'm real interested to hear what Brian got to say about this, because I know you're gonna have some.
What thing you say? Who would ever think that you would spread like mustard?
Yikes. All right, Big Papa. Anyways. So yeah, no, I mean, like the story goes like this. Zion made a big announcement on like YouTube about his girlfriend's pregnancy, that he's having a little, I believe it's a girl. The girl that he was having an affair with, the adult actress, decided she was salty about not getting the same kind of attention, that the girlfriend was getting, and then put all their business out in the world. Quite honestly, I don't really care too much. I mean, Zion isn't a basketball player. Zion is a bench ornament, a very big bench ornament and slayer of buffets from one coast to the one coast to the other. Slaying a couple other things too, but buffets seem to be his biggest vice. So, whatever. I mean, it's not going to impact his career. If you're Zion's agent, I was saying this earlier in the group chat, if you're Zion's agent, the minute you saw that news, you called up your attorney, who that we all have, on speed dial, and you had that person write something that starts with.
When you say we, go ahead.
I got a lot of attorneys on speed dial.
Man,
but
I call you.
There you go. I always tell my friends, if you get one call while you're in jail, make it me.
Yeah.
I know.
Brian,
I know
you told me that
everywhere. All the rest of the calls to me.
You have told me that exactly. Right.
But anyways, so I'm sure the agent called the lawyer. The first thing the lawyer did was start drafting up something that starts with Zion Williamson is an internationally recognized basketball player whose brand is over $100 million. He has deals with Nike, blah, 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 blah. Just like give the laundry list. Any unauthorized release of content without the written consent of Zion Williamson is considered an impeachment on the brand, and we will act accordingly. Which is basically to say, if he loses his deal by Nike because you dropped some adult material, that $100 million that Nike's planning on giving him is coming out your pocket. And you can send a cease and desist. That would counteract any belief that there was consent at the time. If he yelled out yes the right way or whatever, that did not. It'll make it clear that was not him giving consent. So the reality of it is that if she were serious about it, she did this all wrong. I think if she were serious about it, she should have just done it. Because it's the way it looks at now is that she knew what the consequences were. She went and did anything anyway, and it would be pretty, in my opinion, pretty easy for them to win something. The other thing is that all of this has the makings when you start seeing these Twitter rants and it goes for anything. Elon Musk getting his feelings hurt. When you see people start sending all these text messages, Twitter messages and so on and so forth. Yeah, where they're basically just opening up their ranting and telling all their stories. It's because their feelings are hurt. It's not because this is a rational decision with rational people making rational statements. This is, you hurt my feeling. Maybe you told me you were going to leave your girlfriend, and whatever you were going to do, you didn't do it, and now I want to hurt you. And the way she feels she can hurt him is by messing him up in public, maybe making him and his girlfriend break up, whatever. All of that. It never works.
No.
That's never the way to make it work. And then, quite honestly, she's in a business where putting this kind of information on the street is bad for business. There's probably other basketball athletes that she's known before.
Yeah, that want to hit that.
She's on the blacklist. I'll tell you. She's on the blacklist.
I think they were all black. There's another list?
No, right? So,
but yeah, she's on the do not fly list, right?
That's a good point, Brian. I didn't think about that. She's mentioning her future business because she could just get with another one, because a lot of them kind of hop around that same circle. You know what I mean? So
they're young guys with money. Yeah,
and they arrange for I won't call it prostitution. They arrange for meetings in Las Vegas for weekends where the people agree that there's
I see where this is going.
Clothes and
that happened before, Glenn, when Philadelphia Eagles were playing the Raiders. It was a group of women that went to the hotel where the Eagles were playing at, and I know one of those women, and they were all broke off money because you don't pay them to come over, you pay them to leave. So it's like, so they all did their thing, and they bounced out, played the Raiders the next day. So I mean, that's what happens.
This show is far from for kids.
But most importantly, I think the reason why we should all talk less about this is, Zion's been in the league for 3 seasons. He's only played 114 games, most of those in one season. He's got a 24-game season and a 29-game season and a 60-game season. That's the best he can do. he's largely irrelevant to sports other than the fact that he's a bench ornament.
Came in 2020. Crazy. 2019, 2020. Yeah.
Yeah. And, he's been exactly what I said on this show. And I think Jason, you said something similar. But I said the way he runs, the physiology of how he maneuvers himself on a basketball court will make him irrelevant. Doesn't matter how much money he gets, doesn't matter how good a basketball player he could be. He could be talented if he wasn't 350 pounds and going the Stanley Roberts route. But
Oliver Miller,
he's decided that he does not care about those things. And part of the reason why this happens with these athletes is one, AAU ball doesn't teach you how to move with the ball or to dribble or anything like that. They see you can jump through the roof, they throw you a ball and tell you to dunk it, and the coaches, benefit from that type of that thing. So these kids don't learn how to run up the court, how to make fundamental moves. If they don't learn it on a blacktop because somebody took them under their wing, they don't learn it. And Zion never learned any of that. And the other thing is that they get all their money up front, right? So they get a small rookie deal, but they get $100 million of Nike money, which is basically in the bank. It's mostly guaranteed money. And I say mostly guaranteed because the one thing that can screw you up on these things is usually the character clause, which is exactly what Zion is fooling with, and John Morant has been fooled with, and so it's not hard to stay in the good graces of a guaranteed contract. Yet somehow some of these players have managed to run afoul of them. But in Zion's case, there's no motivation for him to become a better basketball player, and he seems to show that in every single moment. The guy played 29 games this season, and yet he's got this scandal going on. He's got his weight issues, he's got his knee issues. He's been fighting with the team and saying, well, I don't know if they want me there, blah, 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 and I want to go someplace else. Man, you ever play basketball? How are you making trade demands? Name another person with a 3-year, 114-game career that has been able to sit there and make massive demands on where they should go and how they should be treated. We need to spend a little less time worried about what Zion's going to do, because in 10 years we'll be talking about him and the likes of Greg Oden, and some other folks like him. Most of Greg Oden's injuries were due to physical things that he couldn't have any control over. His body just failed him. It wasn't all physiology related. Whereas Zion, I don't think it's his body failing him as much as his inability to use his body in the right way is failing him.
Yeah, I agree with what you said, but I think the main motivation why Zion has no inclination to even get better, because he signed that 5-year, $194 million extension. Why do you need to try to get better? And you've already paid. The Hornets, it's their fault. Yeah, it's like it's the Hornets' fault. They did that, and that they have to own that. And now I've seen things talking about they want to trade him. Who's going to take him in that damn contract? It's pretty much CJ McCollum pretty much spilled the beans on that dude and told him this guy doesn't work out. He doesn't take care of his body. He doesn't get proper sleep.
He does not care.
He's out. He doesn't care. Exactly. The guy doesn't care. So
he grew up in South Carolina and he played little kids basically. Every time you saw a highlight reel, it was him jumping over some 5'2" kid. He played half of one season in college. And New Orleans has bestowed all of this guaranteed money. And quite honestly, I don't think anyone should bail New Orleans out. Why, if you're any basketball team in the NBA, why the heck would you give anything to have that player on your team?
You're muted, Coop.
And Glenn Bryan, that extension hasn't even kicked in yet.
No,
I'm not mad at the young brother get paid. It's just it's bad business by the ownership.
Right.
But I ain't mad at him. It's your bread.
Right.
Yeah. Don't blame him for don't blame him for that part, for getting money. That's what his job is. He's supposed to get money. 100%. Blame the organization. I blame him for making a mockery of the fans. And with that effort and his constant stupidity.
When Brian said his high school highlights of playing against those 5'2" guys, it reminded me of watching Kwame Brown highlights when he was in high school in Mississippi, playing against all them Bible colleges Bible schools and vocational schools and the deaf and the blind, because he was averaging 9 blocks a game. If you're averaging 9 blocks a game in high school, you damn sure ain't playing against that much competition. And if you look at Kwame Brown's high school highlights, you can see it.
Look, there are plenty. There are people who do it against real competition. I don't know about 9, but they people.
Yeah.
But there was literally no talk about Zion outside. He wasn't traveling nationally. There's no game with him going against Sierra Canyon. You have schools like Sierra Canyon traveling to the Ohio and the Bass, and they're playing all there's national rankings. The Zion's teams were never in that conversation because it was him and a bunch of the farmers' sons playing a bunch of other 5'2" kids in barns.
Man.
I know that's like overgeneralizing and kind of sarcastically making fun of the situation, but it was not real.
Hey man, he played against the Myrtle Beach Bandits. The Myrtle Beach Bandits in the AAU. No, I'm just playing. I don't even know that's a real team.
Dude got off easy because all he did was steal a year.
Yeah, man. So yeah.
Jeez. What all right, that's enough, man. I can't. I am gonna commend both of you. I hate to bring it up, but you guys got.
I know we didn't say it.
You got through that whole segment without bringing the quarterback of my team up. That was very good.
Hey, we do what we do.
Very proud of you both. Hoop, Brian, I shake your hands digitally. That was very, very good. I'm extremely surprised.
I'm not going to say that the thought had crossed my mind, but
hey, you didn't do it, and that's all right, man. The little conscience on your shoulder said, "Hey, just chill out, keep talking what you're talking." So that's cool. All right. So then, speaking of movement, CP3 gets traded. Finds out from his son. He said he was in the middle of a show. Yeah, he was on a plane. He was on Good Morning America, one of them shows, and they was asking how he felt. And he was like, "Man, I found out like y'all. CP3 gets traded for Bradley Beal. The Bradley Beal, KD, Booker experiment's kind of interesting to me. I don't know that it's going to equal, any long-term playoff success, but I'm curious about it. So what do you guys think about that? Bradley Beal to the Suns and then CP3 to the Wizards.
Yeah. So, highlighting a little bit later, I was going to talk about a portion of this in the Hogwash segment, but it's not right for a veteran like that to find out he was on a plane flying to do Good Morning America, was told he had been traded. Now he had already known that they were going to cut him. They had a conversation. They knew that the organization was done. And then I believe he was aware of the fact that they were holding off on the cutting of him because they thought that he might be a useful tool in a trade so that the other team could cut him. But what happened was the Wizards decided that now they want to play a game where they try and trade him. They want to get something in return for him now. And he's a little bit held hostage. But finding out that way for a veteran, I'm not a CP3 fan as a person. I think he's a great basketball player. But I don't think any veteran basketball player with a Hall of Fame career should have these types of games played with him. He made a commitment to the Suns. The least the Suns could do was, say, hey, this is about to go down. Just letting you know, we told you that this is something that we were working on. The way it worked out, we have to include you in the trade. We've talked to them. This is what they're planning on doing. That's it. A phone call ahead of saying this is going to, a little bit of professionalism. And we've talked about other players who have found out while they're in movie theaters and all types of, this is not the best thing that GMs do, but this should have happened the right way. On the other side, I really like the trade for the Suns. Not because I think Bradley Beal is the best player in the game, but as a third option, he's a very, very good third option. I can't think of 5 teams in the league that have anything close to a third option. The other thing is that now they're talking about keeping Ayton, which is a pretty good fourth option. You have your height, you have Beal, you have Booker, you have KD. That is a formidable nucleus. And I'm not saying that Ayton's good, but if you're going to try and find 5 centers in the league in the West that are better, you're going to be hard pressed. It's Jokic, and then AD when he plays center. Okay, I think we're done. And so,
Karl Anthony Towns.
You can't find height. You can't find. This is not a defensive Ayton. I think he's limited, and he's shown kind of his ceiling, and it's not all that high. But as a fourth player in that team, that could be pretty valuable. The biggest problem I see with the Suns in this whole trade is that they don't have a point guard, and for whatever reason, they're talking about how they're going to make Booker the point guard. He can't play point. He just can't play point.
No,
like
both y'all in unison.
Nope. Like he will end up being in the Westbrook Hall of Fame if they try and go and make him a point guard.
You did good on the last one, so you got it.
I had one. I had to. Yeah, but seriously, like that's the only problem I can see. And they genuinely are talking about making Booker the point guard. I think what they should do is, call two of them forward, call Beal and KD their forwards. I know KD likes to be considered a small forward. Who cares? Its position was basketball. You don't need a traditional power forward if you have KD, Beal, and Ayton there. And you can find anyone to go. I think Kyle Lowry's about to get cut. He'll be out there with a veterans minimum. Just somebody who knows how to play and pass and distribute the ball, because Booker is not that guy. And I think Booker's really good, but he is not a traditional point guard, and that's exactly what that team needs. There's not going to be enough balls in the basketball court to have Booker as a point guard.
Nah, I saw Booker play point guard in the playoffs. There was a lot of one-on-one basketball. Wasn't a lot of setups, and then natural point guard going on. And plus, you take away.
KD will be pissed.
Yeah, it's plus you take away what Booker does best, catch and shoot, by having him play point guard. You don't do that. You have to get somebody to be a distributor. It ain't got to be super elite. You can be a bum like Kyle Lowry. I'm sorry, I've never liked him, but just anybody just to pass the ball. You know what I mean? When I found out about that trade, the first thing I was thinking to myself, is Beal any good anymore? Because I just don't hear his name anymore. I mean, I like Beal. I really did like Beal. Right. I know he plays in Washington, but the thing is, it's not that. It's just that he used to play a lot of games, like earlier in his career. And then, in the past few years, last year he played, 50, then he played 40, so he doesn't really play that much, 60, 57. So he doesn't really even play 65 games. And I didn't know how good he was. Now, when he does play, he still, puts up points. Looks like he averaged 23 points a game the last couple of years. But I agree with Brian, having him as a third option would be great. I don't think that that vaults them to a title. I think they have, depth issues and bench issues. I do like that they got Frank Vogel, and Frank Vogel does like big man. He acquired them when we were with the Lakers, and he loved them. He loved them all. So he only has really Ayton as a big man, but they're going to be fun to watch. I'm looking forward to watching that team play. I know Durant has injury issues, so it's good when he's out. They still got Bill. I know Bill has injury issues.
Well,
so when he's out, maybe Durant. Yeah, so they got plenty of scoring, so they'll be fun to watch. But I don't think that vaults them up as a championship team. But at least they're interesting. And if you can't be good or a championship team, at least be interesting. And that's what the Phoenix Suns are.
Jason, let me ask you this question. The last show we were talking about, you actually posed the question. Do you think of Denver as a dynasty team? We both said no. We think of this as they had their big year. They got hot at the right time. They've won their. Right. There isn't a good team that you would go to the mat right now and say, oh, they're very likely to be the team that's great next year. Yeah. So I don't agree with them firing the head coach there. I don't agree with how they've handled this situation. For all of the bad handling that they've had, I think they ended up in a great situation.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, and Monty Williams got paid in Detroit, so I know he ain't tripping. Yeah,
and he got the rest of the money he got from Phoenix. Remember, the best job in the NBA is the fire
coach. Yeah.
But anyways, or Zion Williamson,
or Ben Simmons. But go ahead.
But I really do think that they landed themselves in the right situation at the right time. They've got a lot more talent than just about any team you can think of. We have no idea what's going on in Boston. We still don't know what's going on in the 76ers. Miami's done. Their time has passed. The Lakers are always kind of going to be teetering. Denver's going to try and bring back the same team. They've got plenty of talent, but they've shown most seasons that they're good enough to get to the first round or second round of the playoffs. They got caught at the right time. But I don't think anyone thinks that they're a definite repeat type candidate.
Right. You got Milwaukee. They got their issues. They bowed out in the first round. So
Golden State's old, and they're going to pay $350 million for a $100 million team next year.
Old and expensive, what you don't want to be in sports.
It's a bad combo, right? So they just kind of found the right thing at the right time. And I respect Phoenix for making that run and just saying, this is the time, and we're going to go broke trying.
Yeah.
let's throw all our cards. Let's throw all of our chips in the middle of the table and with these pocket jacks. It's not like aces, but we got pocket jacks. You can win with pocket jacks. It's not pocket aces. It's not the best hand you can kind of have at the beginning, but you can win with pocket jacks. So let's give it a shot and see what happens.
Yeah. So
Permission
yeah,
to
so any thoughts, GB?
I just want to see how it works out. We'll see what happens. I feel like CP3 is. I don't know if he's eligible for a buyout or something, but
he is.
He's eligible to be cut, and they save a truck ton of money if they do.
Yeah.
And they can only play this game. Like if CP3 doesn't get traded in the next couple of days, then in all likelihood he'll just get cut.
Yeah.
There's no chance that they try and play a game where they keep him into the season. That doesn't work out well for the Wizards. It doesn't work out well for CP3. It doesn't work out for anybody. For anybody. Excuse me.
So he's definitely not going to be playing in a Wizards jersey next year. Let's just say that. So he'll be somewhere.
So speaking of people not playing in jerseys they've been in, what about, before we get to the U.S. Open, what about Draymond? How do y'all feel about that news?
It's been expected. They've been talking about this for weeks. He was going to opt out, and the Warriors are going to keep him and pay him some money. Now, I don't know how much they were saying, but we all know that Draymond thinks he's worth more than what most people think he should get, which really doesn't matter what we think. It only matters what the Warriors think, because he's valuable to the Warriors. And so him opting out was not a surprise to anybody, because he wants more money.
I didn't realize the opt out and then re-sign, so you can restructure.
So as long as the Lakers don't pay him $100 million, I'm okay with that. But
no, I mean, I think so. I think he has a handshake, wink, wink deal, because there's no player who passes up $28 million guaranteed dollars unless they know that they've got $30 million in the offing. And what I mean by that is that the deal that he will sign with them will most likely be 4 or 5 years. So it's a stretch deal where they give him 35 for 5 years or something like that. He gets paid $7 million a year. He makes a little bit more money, and they get something guaranteed. And then he's more around the value. But there has to be a wink-wink deal. And I'm sure that after this gets done, and Mike Dunleavy came out and said, we absolutely 100% want to do everything we can to re-sign Draymond. It's like, man, don't tell me you didn't walk him into the nearest Chili's and sit down and go, all right, here's how this has got to work.
Here, Chili.
You can have the $28 million for the 27.6 or whatever it is, $28 million next year, but we're done with you after that. Or we can sign you to a 4 or 5 year deal for a little bit more money on the total and guarantee that you will be a part of our organization after you retire, which is money after you get done. And I know Draymond really wants that. You'll be able to be a lifelong, Warrior, including in your post career. We'll give you all of that, but you got to give us a break and do this opt out, because there's no reason whatsoever that a player walks away from guaranteed money.
Yeah, I thought there was no chance.
Unless they at least think that they have a better chance of getting more guaranteed money.
Yeah, Glenn, in the NBA, whenever you see somebody opt out of their year in the NBA, look at their next contract. They're always getting more money. Always. It always happens like that in the NBA.
Unless your name is Schroeder.
Now, he was an idiot. You're right. But see, you see, I think Russell Westbrook, I know other players have had opt-outs before, and they chose to opt in because they knew they weren't going to get that kind of money if they're on the open market. So they stayed in the contract they were in. So
that's usually what I thought Draymond would do, but this makes sense.
Usually NBA players are smart enough to know they're either getting more money or they're not getting more money, except Schroeder, like
their
Brian
agents
said.
Are smart.
Right.
And I don't know if Clutch is not known for their above board negotiations. Like they'll go to the back of the room and work out handshake deals, and they've done plenty of them.
Basically they'll be at the bar at Applebee's, Glenn, and they'll work out a deal. At happy hour prices. They'll pay happy hour prices though.
Right. All right, so any other NBA topics?
I mean, I randomly, I think isn't the draft in a couple days?
Oh, okay. That's where they get players.
Are we gonna talk about that? Really?
It's funny. It's funny how little anyone's talking about the NBA draft. It's like almost as if people don't really care. And the NFL,
I know I don't.
All the hype that gets brought up, like the whole week, everything about it, they just do it so much better.
Well, you know the reason for that, Brian. No, you know the reason. It's a connection. It's a bond. It's a partnership between NFL and college. There's no partnership NBA and college. They hate each other. And plus, we have a connection in college because we watched them for a couple of years at least. Most of them 2-3 years.
Yeah, it's 2-3 years. You get to connect with them.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I mean it's a mess. I actually just saw a news flash that talks about Charlotte. Right. So the first thing that anyone who's watching this knows or should know is that Victor Wembanyama is going to be the number 1 pick. That is like etched in stone. You know, he's probably already buying houses in the San Antonio area. But what everyone was trying to figure out is who was going second. It was either going to be Scoot Henderson or Brandon Miller. According to what I just saw, Charlotte has basically decided that they're going to take Brandon Miller. Which is going to be really interesting. So Brandon Miller is a small forward. Scoot Henderson was a point guard. Now, obviously, if the Charlotte Hornets were going to take a point guard, that might be problematic for what is it?
LaMelo.
I got to make sure I get the ball, brother. That right. And so they decided that they're going to go away from that. Which means they probably intend on keeping ball around. And they're going with a small forward.
Oh, yeah, I have nothing to say about the draft because I don't watch the NBA draft. I don't know who coming out and where except Winnebago. That's the only person I know that Brian mentioned that's coming out. That's it. I know nothing. I don't watch it.
Whataburger to the Spurs.
Well, let's talk about, I mean, just because it's somewhat interesting, what do the Lakers do they've got 2 picks this year. They rarely have picks. They almost always trade them away. The only reason they didn't trade it away this year is because the league wouldn't let them, because they're not allowed to trade consecutive first-round picks. And so they had to do every other. And so they have this one. Now, they could still do wink-wink deals where they draft somebody and then immediately trade the player. But all intent, from what I understand, is that they intend on using both of these draft picks, where they have the 17th and like the 47th or something like that, to try and get some young and inexpensive talent on the team. But the players that they're looking at are mostly guards, which is the part I don't understand. I mean, if the one thing that the damn Lakers have is guards, they got a glutton with all these players, Reeves and Reeves, excuse me, Schroeder, D'Lo, which I don't expect them to re-sign, but they got to figure out what they're going to do with all these guards. So why they're looking at a bunch of shooting guards is kind of weird.
I think because they need 3-point shooting. I think everybody knows they need 3-point shooting. That's
sure, but find yourself a small forward that can shoot. Find yourself a power
I'm
forward
with you on that.
Shoot.
Find somebody that can already play in the NBA that can shoot. I'm with you on that one.
What they really need is, I don't know if there's any height in this draft, real height in this draft, but you need somebody who can play center, because AD doesn't like playing center. And all you need from a center, by example, is somebody to get the backup role taken care of. So you don't need him to come in there and be a superstar. You're not going to find a superstar at 17 unless you get lucky, super lucky. And that it happens every once in a while, but you don't bet on it. But if you can find somebody who can play 12 minutes a game as a backup center, or power forward, or like front court, basically, the Lakers would do well to do that. So maybe they're going to switch it up in the last minute and go. But most of the people that they're trying out or working out have been guards, young guards. And they need playmakers as well. They need a traditional playmaking point guard because they've got to stop making LeBron do all of that. And quite honestly, not because he's old, because he's unreliable, because he gets his feelings hurt in games and then starts holding and icing the ball and chucking up threes because the other team shoots threes. And so he thinks that he's got to match them, and we can't shoot like that. The way we got ourselves into trouble in the playoffs, especially against Denver, was quite honestly, it was LeBron jacking up shots and freezing the ball and not playmaking, which he's really great at doing, but he's got to do it in order for it to be successful.
Yeah, I think the Lakers, the more LeBron has to do, I've always said that's bad for us. We need LeBron we need players to come in so LeBron can do less. so we can save him for later in the season. We don't need him to keep playing 40 minutes a game like he was doing at the beginning of the last season. It has to have a great game for us to win. It has to be, we have to have guys that can play, like you said, can be playmakers and that can score points and that can hold the Lakers over when LeBron is not in the game or does not play, because he can't be relied on to play 70 games a year, 65. He can't. So it's too old. He's great, but it's getting older and it just doesn't get better. It gets worse. So we'll see what that. And Mo Bamba can't be relied on at center. But I know he was a throw-in.
No, I wish, I honestly, I still to this day, and it's only been a couple months, believe it, we had Thomas Bryant. It's a whole different playoff picture. And he went to go be a backup. He wanted more playing time after AD came back. Went to be a backup in Denver and did not play an iota of the time. Not even a minute.
He got a ring. Yeah.
He got a ring. But I believe he could have gotten that same ring if he had stayed. Yeah. And he would have actually been, he could have told the story about how he played in the NBA Finals. Yeah. Not that he went to the NBA
He pulled a Stacey King. He pulled a Mark Madsen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think Thomas Bryant and I played the same amount of minutes.
Tough.
Yeah.
Rough and tough. Word. All right. That's
Glenn, I got to give a shout out to Michael Jordan. I've never been the biggest Jordan fan, but him selling the majority of his team. He's still going to be a minority owner, but he sold a majority of the team to a person who's already a minority owner of that team. I understand how people feel about Michael Jordan, but I don't think people understand that, just because you were a great player doesn't make you a great coach. We saw that with Magic. It doesn't mean it makes you a great GM. We saw that with Magic and Jordan. Jordan, he drafted Kwame Brown. Nobody ever talks about that. People talk about how bad Kwame Brown was. He talk about how bad of a GM Michael Jordan was. That wasn't his only bad move. And he wasn't a good owner.
You're doing, right?
I know, right? You're funny. Right. And he wasn't a great owner with the Charlotte, Hornets. I think they only had three winning seasons with him as the owner, and it was just a disaster. So he was great at basketball, but wasn't pretty much good in anything else he tried. And he tried it, didn't work out. He's selling his team. I just want to throw that in there. And Brian, that's a quick shout.
So I just want to say on his behalf, he must really, really feel the love based on what you just said.
He made hella. Didn't he buy it for like, I think
200. I think it was 275.
And sold it
he didn't actually buy it though. It was all loans. It was none of his money. It was loans.
Yeah, that's okay.
He only has to pay back the part he borrowed. All the rest of it is on his lap, right?
Correct.
Exactly.
And by the way, I checked on that Thomas Bryant. He literally did not play a single minute in the finals. He did not play a single minute against the Lakers, and he did not play a single minute against the Suns, except for I think in the first game. Jeez. So, where's my ring?
Bench.
All right. Yeah, shout out to Michael Jordan for being terrible. I'm with Brian. Like, where was the good?
Hey.
Damn. Hey, don't give me no shout outs.
I said he was a great basketball player.
Yeah, seriously. You can hate me because it all sounds the
same. Yeah, please don't bring me up. But so that's that. And then kind of last but not least, US Open wraps up last week. Wyndham Clark wins it. That boy Ricky Fowler was looking like Brian on PGA 2K for 3 days, smacking the ball everywhere, just killing. And then he kind of fell off. Wyndham Clark wins it. Shout out to Tommy Fleetwood too, another top 5 finish after
Fleetwood Mac
winning it last week. Yep, Tommy Fleetwood, Cam Smith, Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, and Wyndham Clark. It's a pretty solid little top 5 coming down the stretch, but. Coop, I don't know if you saw any of it, but B, kind of what do you think?
I went to it on Friday, but it was interesting because there was a lot of hubbub in the news and everything else about how everyone was hating on the USGA for this. They thought the course was too easy after the Thursday round where they went and torched the thing and went 8 under. Not realizing a US Open is 4 days, just like any other tournament. And sure enough, the whole thing only finished at 10 under, or was it 9 actually? No, it was 10 under. And so, it's just interesting. These things always kind of work themselves out in the end, and people just need to, calm down for a moment. But the other thing that people were complaining about was that the LA Country Club and the USGA were trying out a new thing where they were limiting the crowds. And so they did not sell a whole bunch of the general admission tickets. They severely limited it. As somebody who went on Friday, I loved it. I am not a big go to places with crowds. I'm not one of those people who wants to be in the stadium with 150,000 other at the big house. Not me. So it was real nice. I was privileged enough to have like a ticket to a suite and food and drinks the whole night. I never went in the suite. And I just went over to a couple of holes. I sat in the public stands. I could have gotten a general admission ticket. It just never works out this way. I sat in the stands for a while. I go to another stand, sit in that one. And the event itself was actually really interesting. It's a tough course. A friend of mine was actually a marshal on the very short par 3. I was over there kind of just hanging out, was 20, 30 feet away from the hole when Matt Fitzpatrick hit his hole in one. That was pretty exciting to be right there. The minute the guy hit it, and I saw where it landed, I said, oh, this is going to be a really good one, because I've been watching for an hour. So I knew based on where it hit, where it was going to go. Like, this is going to be a really good one. And sure enough, it went in the hole. I was like, oh, this is, it's a lot of fun. From a competitive standpoint, I think it's great that Clark won. I thought he played super clutch down the stretch. If you know his backstory, he's a really decent dude that you would root for if you knew. But more than that, I would take my hat off to Ricky Fowler, who played amazing for 3 rounds, and then just couldn't get it working on Sunday. And that didn't stop him from being the first person going up to Wyndham Clark, who he's really close friends with, and saying, hey, if your mom were here, she'd be so proud of you. Congratulations. Had a really special moment. Stayed after to do all the interviews. Stayed after to sign all the fans that he had there, because he's still a huge figure. After losing the U.S. Open, not with a score a par would have done, he would have won with a par. If he to be able to go and do all of that just says a lot about the man himself. It was a great tournament. Rory just couldn't get it done. He couldn't putt for crap on Sunday. And ultimately that cost him a shot at coming back and winning it. But great tournament, great venue. I look forward to playing it. I'm working on making that happen in the not too distant future. So LA Country Club is also in the top 50. I'm going to number 3 next week. Number 3 in the US. Right. I'm going to go play there next week.
Nice.
So, but great tournament. Folks, if you're not into golf, I totally get it. Watching golf when you don't play golf is not generally what 100%. People want to do with their time. It takes a long time. It's, you don't necessarily understand what's going on. But sometimes there's a drama or a feeling that you can get that's independent of the event. The final 9 holes at the U.S. Open, the final 9 holes at Augusta, you don't even need to be a fan of the sport to get that feeling. Sort of like the last 5 minutes on a hockey game. You don't have, if you're just in the arena or if you're watching the thing and you're so close and the intensity starts to build up and you know that any moment now the whole thing could blow open and go a different direction. There's a feeling there. The U.S. Open has that feel. It did it again this year. And if you're ever going to watch a sport like golf, if you're not a golfer, the U.S. Open and the Masters are about as good as it gets.
That's it. Word. Yeah, definitely a good tourney. That course looks crazy. Yeah, B, let us know how next week goes. You're at Pinehurst, right?
Pinehurst too, yeah. Pinehurst has 10 golf courses.
Wow, I didn't know that. Have fun.
Me either until I was going there.
Yeah, that's dope. Word. So that's our show pretty much. Let's get to our last couple segments. What's hella hogwash, man? What y'all got?
My hogwash segment is the whole Saquon Barkley situation, how he's holding out for more money and acting like he hasn't been paid. And when I went back to review, he was the number 2 draft pick, number 2 overall draft pick when he was drafted. And he's made $38 million. And this guy was hurt. He wasn't hurt last year, but he was hurt a couple of years before that. He wasn't playing too many games. And when you average out the games he's played to how much he's made over $600,000 per game, which is pretty good. So the Giants have been pretty good to him. And if he signs this, I guess this franchise tag or whatever, he'll make another $10 million. So that'll be about $48 million over 6 seasons, which is pretty good for a running back. So he's trying to act like he's being dead wrong and underpaid and things like that. And I think the Giants paid him pretty handsomely for a person who didn't play that much. I know he played a lot last year. He balled out, but I don't know. I just don't think he's getting screwed over like he's trying to make it seem. But I know he's trying to get his money. So I think that's hogwash, how he's acting out. He's a victim, and he's been paid a lot of money for a running back for a position that, coaches like Bill Belichick and Kyle Shanahan laugh at. They wouldn't even think about paying a running back that kind of money. So that's my hogwash segment.
Shanahan's playing McCaffrey, but go ahead, me.
Well, I was going to say that it was the Suns organization and how they treated CP3, but we talked about that already. So I'm going to change course, and I'm going to mention something that I learned at dinner tonight. So for those who are interested in gaming and all this other stuff, Twitch has always been the application that people use to stream themselves playing games and all of that. And recently they created a bunch of rules, as I understand it, where half the money that you get has to go to Twitch. You have to have certain labeling on the screen and all this other stuff, which sparked a big movement to this other platform called Kick. I use neither of these, know nothing about this other than what I'm about to tell you. So one of the top streaming gamers signed a deal recently for $100 million for 2 years to only broadcast playing video games on Kick. Maybe Saquon saw that shit. It was like, wait a minute, this guy's gonna get $50 million a year to play video games on
Kai Center
and broadcast it.
Hey, it's actually popular. People watching on YouTube, people playing video games. I can never get into something. Yeah, people do that like regularly. I'm like,
all the time.
Okay.
My brother, I know people who do that, and they're like, well, that's how you get better. You watch other people play. I'm like, no, you get better by playing.
By playing, yes.
Like I'm not, Glenn and I, we play golf and whatnot. Like I don't sit there and go and watch somebody else move the stick back and forth and go, oh, I go and I try and play more, and hopefully that get better. But anyways, that streaming playing video games is a $50 million a year job.
Damn.
Wow. Good for him.
That's crazy.
That's
good for him.
You need to start putting out your Madden games on video, man. I'm gonna have to start playing you. Just put it out there.
I might have to with them prices.
And they'd be like, damn, that guy in that 49er hat sucks. Damn.
Man, they're gonna have me playing Final Fantasy if I get paid like that.
Man, seriously.
Yeah, you name it, I got it. I don't really have anything. I think the whole Zion Williamson, Mariah Mills is funny. That could count as hogwash because the whole situation is hilarious. Y'all said it all though. Last segment, real quick, minute to win it. So I'm here at the Great Game of Business seminar in Springfield, Missouri. If you're not familiar, Jack Stack wrote a book. He's working for a company back in the 80s. Company starts going over. They sent him down here to close one or sell off one of this business unit down here in Springfield. Gets down here, sees the people, they're hardworking people. He thinks, man, we can make something out of this. So goes to a bunch of banks, gets a $100,000 loan, and gets $9 million in debt, which is wild. But basically, his thought process is let's teach people business. You can't do just what you've been doing. You got to understand the principles of business, work like an owner, become an owner, think like an owner, and you can have a chance, right? So basically, financial literacy through that, teaching people business. This company now is worth, I think their stock price right now is like $900 a share in terms of stocks. But basically, the reason I bring this up, one shout out to, I appreciate the company for sending me out here, but the thought while I've been in these meetings is to anyone who's listening to this and people is to, when you approach things in your life, and I'm doing the same now, is do you look at things within your own life as if you own them? Do you approach your relationships? Do you approach your own business, your job, your personal finances as if you actually have ownership in these things? Or are they things that just happen to you? When you approach life and things in a different manner, sometimes you get better results. I'm not saying you're not getting bad results, but actually looking at things from the approach of ownership and being able to influence change upon the things that happen to you versus things just happening to you in life has a lot of power. So it's kind of what I saw. What I've been seeing is just, the power of intention, strategic planning for your own life, your own 5-year plan, etc., and the power that it can have on your own life. So kind of the thought process I'm having now as I go forward is like, it could be hobbies, it could be work, it could be your own finances, relationships, kids, whatever. Like, do you approach your family or etc. as if you have some ownership of it? Are you actually bought into, what you're actually trying to do there? So kind of what's been on my mind. That's where I'm at as I sign off from Springfield. What about you guys?
Oh, we did ours.
No, he's minute from winning.
Minute to win it.
Oh, minute to win it. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna give a shout out to my to everybody who listens. Thank you. I'm gonna give a shout out to my nephew, DJ, who just got an internship with the Chicago Bears. So he graduated from college at Tennessee State, and he was looking to, work in football. And
very smart.
Nobody starts in the pros. You always usually start in college or some lower level place, and you kind of work your way up. He's starting in the NFL. And he had 2 teams that really wanted him, but he already accepted the position with the Bears. So shout out to him. I'm still gonna have to be critical of the Bears because that's what I do. But I'm happy that that he's learning the NFL game and possibly gonna be a position coach and maybe move up to head coach one day.
Awesome.
So I'm really proud of him, and good luck to him.
Awesome.
Is that Middle Tennessee State or just Tennessee State?
No, he went to Tennessee State, played for Eddie George at Tennessee State, and now he's about to be in Chicago with the Bears.
Awesome. Congrats to him.
Yep.
I'll just use my moment to say my heart goes out to the people who are currently 10,000 leagues under the sea. So if you haven't seen it, it's been kind of all over CNN over the last couple of hours. There is a small submarine that went to go see the wreckage of the Titanic. They have now been missing for quite some time. They have throughout the day, they've been kind of doing a clock, but they have less than 31 hours left of air. There's a billionaire and his son on there, and several other, affluent people, but there's a billionaire who is also someone who's like one of the board members of SETI, which is the Search for Extraterrestrial Life. Anyways, an explorer. I honestly, stories like this are the reason why I can't even get on submarines, in the harbor of like Catalina and whatnot. The claustrophobia, the thought of being stuck down there without knowing whether or not you will live or die. My heart goes out to them. I hope they're found. I know that there's been some progress made. They've heard some banging sounds and they're hoping that they can track that down. But, it's really, really dark when you're deep in the ocean. They've lost contact, which possibly means they've lost power, which means that these people might very well just, be in a dark chamber and it's a race against time. So I hope that they're found. My heart goes out to them. The other thing I would say is congratulations to Arkansas. There was a federal judge today who got overturned, struck down the transgender affirming ban in Arkansas that Arkansas has. Shocking given the name Arkansas, and it's something that was impactful to the trans community. This being struck down is a sign that there's some decent people out there in Arkansas somewhere. So shout out to the federal judge for being brave enough to do that in that state.
Word. As always, be coming through with the poignant. This is the Sports Counterpoints podcast. I'm GB. That's Brian. That's Coop. It's June 20th, 2023. We'll catch y'all next time. Peace.